Hey everyone, this podcast is part of Story Mode, the podcast network of Gamefully Unemployed. You can support us and gain access to other great exclusive podcasts at patreon.com/gamefullyunemployed. That's patreon.com/GAMEFULLY unemployed, which is spelled like it sounds.
Hello, everybody.
Hey everyone,
I'm David Bell,
I'm Tom Ryman.
and we just watched The Nun. The Nun, a movie about bread.
The noon. The none your business.
I had a series of visions when I was younger. And after each one ended, the same thought would be stuck in my head.
What did you see?
I saw a nun.
It was such a fucking nun.
It was a nun.
This movie was fucking nunned so hard.
I want to start by the title screen, and it says The Nun, and then it cuts to the Vatican.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to lean to you and joke that the next thing was going to be said is like someone leans to a priest, and they're like, "So there's this nun."
Yeah.
And that's sort of what happens.
Kind of what happens.
Yeah.
Well, the opening scene is these two nuns in this haunted abbey in Romania in their secret nun basement.
Yeah. I want to start real quick by saying this movie is insane. Before we go into
before we
point
get
by
into the
point,
film, the primary emotion / opinion I had leaving this film was that I'm very confused.
Yeah, it's also nighttime, and we're both very tired.
We're tired.
The last thing we're doing is seeing The Nun and talking about it, and this movie is it immediately goes off the rails.
Yes, this movie is bad.
Yes.
It's a very bad
That's
film.
the word to look
Very
for. This
bad
is not a
film.
good movie.
This is not a good movie. I've heard noises in my house that are scarier than this film.
Right. The opening graphics, the what are they called? The logos,
Yeah,
company logos.
all the title cards for
were
logos.
absolutely more compelling than the movie. So just getting that out of the way.
Yeah.
This is a bad film.
This is a bad film. This is a very confusing film. It's bad in every possible way.
Yes.
It's bad in an entertaining way.
Yes. It's oh man. It's so anti-horror that we were
really
laughing
is.
while
we
watching.
were laughing during most of it.
It has, I think, probably the same 6 scare tactics throughout.
I think that's a generous number.
That might be a
I
generous
feel
number.
like it's 2.
Okay. She approaches someone from behind and their neck cracks.
Yeah.
Or a neck cracks in general.
Yeah.
Or someone's standing there in one place and they make a cracking sound.
Mm-hmm.
There's the camera slowly pans in one direction.
Right, yeah.
And there's nothing there, and then pans back slowly, and there's someone in the
something there.
background.
And those are the 2 scares.
Yeah. Well, there's also a door slowly opens.
Mhm.
That happens a lot. And somebody goes to a graveyard.
That happens a lot.
They go to the graveyard 3 times.
All 3 characters are lured one at a time into the graveyard where they get scared by Bogginses.
And then that's like the
that's
first
it.
act.
That's the first act of the film.
That's the other thing. This movie, every scare is like a third act scare of a movie that I would watch and go, well, this is dumb. But
Yeah.
like they immediately at the very beginning, they're being chased by zombie nuns.
Yeah.
Like immediately.
Yeah, that's the first thing they encounter are zombie nuns.
I thought this movie was going to be subtle. It is the opposite of subtle.
Why would you think it would be subtle?
Because
Did
The Conjuring is at least slightly subtle.
Did
Like
you
they don't
see
immediately.
what the nun looks like?
Yeah, that's a good point. Also, the nun. Skipping ahead, this was the most shocking revelations when the nun finally like gets to one of them. She just tries to drown them.
Yeah.
Like she's not supernatural. She's
she,
super strong.
Yeah.
But
She's like a swole ass nun.
She just fucking tries to drown her, and
Well,
I
the
was like, "Well, anybody can do that,
The first thing she does is strangle a guy,
right?"
but not even to death,
No,
and then tries to drown the other nun.
right. Nobody in this movie has any reasons for doing anything, including the villain. Because there's a lot of that where it's like she goes after someone and then everything vanishes for no reason.
Right, and then she just stops. Like the nun will stop attacking people for no reason.
Yeah. And then the characters will just blindly go places.
Yes, they just get lured into they'll hear a noise or see something that's clearly supernatural.
Yeah.
and they'll just follow it like cats following a string.
Yeah, well, there's that literal part where the priest follows a bell on a string.
Yeah.
He sees a bell being dragged by a string.
Completely forgets what he's doing.
And just starts following it. And the lead up, okay. Can you explain this to me? Because the lead up to that.
We're jumping all over the place.
Yeah,
guys,
we are. Okay. Should we start from the beginning? Because there's a lot of questions.
Oh, God. Okay. So the movie opens with this scary abbey in the countryside of Romania.
Yeah.
And there's these two nuns going down into a basement, and it's clear some shit is gone down.
Yeah. And the basement is filled with smoke and graves that are just crosses that are just leaned up. It looks like a haunted house. Like, it looks like they are doing a haunted house.
Yeah, I assume, as we later find out, like, what's behind that door is this portal where the demon comes through. So I assume it's lined with crosses to, like, thwart the demon, even though they make it immediately, explicitly, and abundantly clear that the demon doesn't give a fig about crosses.
No. Demon does not
They
care.
do not work.
No.
So the nuns open this door that says God ends here in Latin.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
they
have that
go
on my door as well.
Yeah. I have that tattooed on my stomach.
Yeah.
They open this door and go inside, and we know they're looking for some relic because, like, will the relic save us? And it's like, well, it's the only thing we have left to try.
Right.
And one nun goes in there. We hear some shit, and then she appears all bloody and beat up, and then she thrusts a key into the hand of the other nun, and it's like, you know what you have to do, or else don't let the demon take you as a vessel. And then she gets dragged off into the darkness, and the other remaining nun runs up to her room and hangs herself.
Yes.
And then we cut to the Vatican, where we meet one of our two main characters, the priest whose name I forgot.
Everything about him is forgettable, considering that he doesn't do anything.
He does nothing.
Yeah. He does not.
He literally does nothing. He does not impact the plot whatsoever.
Another critique of this movie, I gotta say, there's three main characters, and for most of the movie, they all seem to be in three different movies.
Yes.
They're even like the main nun lady, and the priest spend most of the movie in separate rooms, what seems to be separate locations.
Yeah.
Experiencing their own little haunted
They're experiencing
house.
their own hauntings. Yeah.
Yeah. They never they only at the third act do they get together.
Yeah.
There's a lot of splitting up in this movie that once more makes no sense.
Yeah.
So he meets. All right. So this is the Vatican is like, okay, team up with this nun.
Yeah.
And here's the first thing they never explain. He goes to the nun, or maybe they try to explain.
No, they super don't.
Okay. He goes to the nun and he's like, they said that you know this area, so I'm going to take you to this area. And she's like, they're mistaken. I don't know this area. And instead of questioning anything, this priestess is like, well, I'm sure they have their reasons.
They have their reasons. Let's go. And
Never
explains off into Romania. Yeah.
Like, I thought that was going to be a key fucking thing.
Nope.
And I was still like, the characters are dumb for not questioning it. Never comes up again.
I don't think they ever explain it.
No.
The most we get by way of explanation is that we learn that the nun, whose name is Sister Irene, had visions as a child.
Yes, she had very obvious weird visions.
Yeah, and the visions wind up kind of being useful.
Sort of. It's, what is it, Mary? She says
Mary points the
way, and then I loved when that paid off, because she's like, I just have these dreams that say Mary points the way, and it's so like telegraphed. And then they go into I'm skipping ahead, I guess. They go into the room, and he's like, look, Mary points the way. And there's a Mary statue, and her finger is practically like E.T. illuminating.
Right. It's catching a beam of light that's just a fucking laser pointer.
Yeah, and it's like, you don't need visions to figure that one out.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they go to this Hogwarts castle.
They go to Hogwarts, the Hogwarts Abbey.
First,
this nun was found dead.
Yeah. First, they pick up Frenchie.
Yeah, God.
Who is introduced by coming out of his house in dirty pajamas and immediately hitting on the nun.
We already met him, because remember we see him
right.
after the nun hangs herself. He shows up the next day with his apple cart delivering supplies, and he sees the dead nun hanging there.
Right.
But you were officially introduced to him in this scene. Yeah, the first thing he does is like, I'm gonna fuck this nun.
Yeah, and he looks like stench. Like he's like,
he looks like a bad smell.
Yeah,
yeah,
he really does.
Yeah. Yeah, it sort of...
Okay.
They play it off as a joke, because when he finds out that Irene's a nun, he's like, oh, I'm sorry. But, like, he keeps at it for the rest of the film. He's
Yeah.
like, I'm gonna fuck this nun.
Yeah, I'm gonna fuck you.
But really, I'm gonna fuck this nun.
So then he says, like, all right, where we're going, we can't have cars. And then he proceeds to take them on a horse on roads where you could have cars.
Yeah.
Like, it was literally him like, look, it's more spooky if we take this
Yeah, it's
carriage.
spookier if I take Philippe from
What-
Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah. What year is this supposed to take place?
52.
52. Yeah, they did this thing where at that point he's just like, okay, everything has to be old-timey now.
Yeah.
Like, they just, for no reason,
Right.
like, just make everything old-timey.
Yeah, I can't take you to the Abbey in a car. Why not? Because it's scary.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And then the horse won't go. Why? Because he's scared.
Right, the horse won't go, and that was like they all right. They travel there, and the horse is like and like
Like
stops.
the horse can sense the evil.
Right, and he's like the horse won't go, and he gets off, and there's the thing to tie a horse
Yeah.
right there where the horse didn't want to go. Like they didn't even like the set designer didn't even do a tree or something. Like there's just
it's just
the horse won't go. Luckily, there's this little horse stable.
yeah, right here.
Like it was and so yeah, they go up to the
Go up to the Abbey. They
Yeah.
find he put the nun's body that he found in the ice house.
right.
And they go in there and it's sitting up in the corner and he's like, well, there's one thing I should tell you, Father, before you get any close to that spooky ass dead nun, is that when I put her in here, I laid her down.
Yeah,
Not
that's
sure how she sat back up.
that was the only part that was like, that's kind of scary.
Yeah, that was like one of the only legitimately creepy points in the movie.
Then they take it away by introducing other nuns, and I was like, oh, the nuns did it.
Yeah, the nuns.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like not scary anymore. I don't know.
I mean, it's still a little eerie, but like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And
And then they bury
the
that nun. And they go inside the Abbey to try to figure out what's going on. And they're met with this heavily veiled Mother Superior, I guess, of the Abbey, who talks like a fucking Star Wars character.
She does. She really does.
Like, her voice is ridiculous.
I was reminded by the witch character in Sleepy Hollow that was
Yeah, very much
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
because you never see the face, and you're just expecting you just again this one of the biggest things that I've said this about a lot of horror movies, but this does it the most, is that a good horror movie makes a normal environment scary. This is the easiest like they choose the easiest path throughout.
Right, it's a
So, like-
spooky old castle.
Yeah, it's terrifying looking, and
Yeah.
then the woman with the black veil over her like talking creepily, and
Yeah.
it's just like, oh yeah, like
Like, I mean, I'll give them that. Like this, but I mean, you don't like you're
see,
also
I won't
saying like
give
you
them
don't
that because it's the easiest
right.
thing
You
to
don't
do.
have to work hard, but like that's the only fear I ever felt was just the general setting
Right.
is creepy. It's
Right.
a spooky old castle.
Yeah, because that's the thing is
Yeah,
that it's not hard to make that everything's
Right.
lit by candle,
yeah.
and then they would just
It was-
film every
it's
conversation.
loaded with smoke.
Yeah,
So much smoke.
yeah, everything was dark and spooky, and it was like
so much mist.
it was just so. The whole thing was just so fucking obvious. Like
Yeah.
it was just
The
so.
the nun itself is genuinely unsettling to look at,
Sure,
but like
but
That's-
it's just a nun with zombie makeup,
right,
Like,
it's right.
with
They
demon-
put corpse paint on
Yeah.
a lady. That's it.
and gave her contacts, and it's like,
Like,
yeah,
yeah.
it's like a clown. It's like a scary clown. It's like
well,
that's always can be creepy, but like you have to go an extra mile to.
right, but
make
it's like the more I saw it, the more I was just like, oh, this is just like
Yeah, near the end, it was just funny to look at them.
right. It just became funny the more
Yeah.
that you saw it because it's like, okay, this is like the makeup I put on playing a show with my band. And
Right.
you just smear black paint over your eyes. It's corpse paint.
It's corpse.
It's
paint.
Metalocalypse.
Yeah, yeah.
It's the guys in Death Clock.
It's it's so
Um,
basic.
Yeah.
God, what the fuck happens after that?
They have to stay the night
Right.
in
right.
the convent, which is
Right.
this building next to the castle, but it's still on the castle grounds. And the castle is surrounded by a fucking minefield of crucifixes.
Uh-huh.
Again, because they're like Frenchie says a line like, I think it's designed to keep the evil in rather than keep it out.
Right. Which
But again, it doesn't seem to give a shit about
No.
crosses. It's haunting an abbey.
yeah.
Like, if it cared about religious iconography, Probably would have picked a different building.
Although it's not an abbey, as we learn eventually.
Oh my god.
All right, I want to get to the graveyards.
Okay, we got to get to the
'Cause
grave. Yeah.
This was probably the most insane part of this movie to me, is that all right, so Frenchie the priest and the woman are going to stay the night.
Yeah, because Mother Superior tells them, well, it's too late. We're about to close the gate, and the sisters all take a vow of silence from sundown to sunup. So you're going to have to wait until tomorrow to get your questions.
And then they say, Frenchie, you better go before it gets dark.
And it's immediately dark when he gets
immediate cut to he
black.
walks outside.
He's holding a lantern.
And he's established that he doesn't want to be there. He thinks the place is cursed and haunted.
Right. He's
So he's walking to his horses.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was just going to confirm and further elaborate on, yes, he has been vocally against going to the Abbey because he's like, no, it's a haunted, creepy, evil place. Everybody in the village knows it.
Yeah.
They get up there, and as soon as they get to the building, like, the priest is like, well, it's my job to determine it's not holy. And Frenchie's immediately like, oh, it's not holy.
Yeah.
This is an evil.
Like,
my horse won't come here.
Yeah. So he starts walking back, and he walks by the graveyard. And he sees a nun walk through the graveyard. So
walk is a generous term.
Right, yeah.
He sees a nun scuttle through the graveyard.
Yeah. So he decides to check it out.
Yeah.
The guy who has no interest in this place. And this is the story of the
who knows
the movie.
It's evil.
Yeah, this is the whole story of the fucking movie is no matter how many times, like, they get so many second chances and warnings. Like, they get so many warnings from this demon, like, hey, leave.
The demon doesn't kill any of them.
No. And it has many chances to.
It reminds me of Slender Man.
Yeah.
Because there's so many situations where you're like, well, that's the end of that character. Nope.
No.
Demon just fucks off.
It reminded me, actually, I was thinking of Beetlejuice. Because I was like, oh, are these ghosts that are just trying to scare them away? Like,
maybe.
That's what it felt like.
They say later that, like, we'll get to it, but when Sister Irene is talking to one of the nuns in the abbey later, the nun tells her that, like, the demon uses hauntings to, like, prey on your weakness or something.
Yeah,
so I guess demons just like fucking with people because all they have is time.
Yeah, that's the classic demon thing. That's in Paranormal Activity too.
It's in all of them. Yeah,
they whittle away at you until you.
And it's lazy.
It's
because it's just a way to explain why the demon doesn't just kill everybody immediately.
Right. But no lazier than this fucking movie. So Frenchie follows the nun.
Yeah.
And she disappears. And then they do a scare that would be scary had I not seen it already in The Conjuring, which is he's walking through the woods and then legs fly down and the nun has hung herself and then falls on him and then turns into a monster.
A snarling ice zombie.
Yes.
It's the nun they buried earlier.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, right.
And it's a snarling ice zombie now. This zombie appears in another grave later.
Right.
And Frenchie decapitates it.
Yes. Skipping ahead, but
its grave is undisturbed.
Right.
So what?
It's a ghost?
I guess.
I don't know.
It gets clearly physical. He chops its head off.
It's
later.
all nonsense. That's the thing. All the scares are nonsense.
Gibberish.
It's worse than like a horror video game. Like the
even the horror video games I've played have more logic than this.
That's true.
Like Resident Evil has way more logic than this.
So, and then this was one of my favorite dumb moments. Is so that he gets away from the zombie nun that's on him. That has like Baraka from Mortal Kombat.
It is
like
a full-on monster.
Yeah. And then he's looking at it, right?
Yeah.
And then for no reason, he looks to the right, and the camera pans to the right.
Yeah.
He looks away from the monster and then looks back and it's gone. That's the only reason he looks away. And it's like, why would you ever look away from
There's so many moments in this movie where the characters put their back to the ghost. And it's like, you would never do that.
Oh, yeah. There's parts where they're like walking backwards for extended periods.
Well,
and it's like,
you would never, ever do that.
Again, it's all manufactured for the cheapest scares possible.
This movie is nothing but cheap jump scares.
Yeah.
Nothing at all but cheap jump scares.
There's nothing lasting about this movie.
Yeah. So
that's Graveyard Trip number 1.
Well, you didn't get to say your favorite gag, which is that I assume is that Frenchie pulls a crucifix from a grave. He pulls up a grave marker and carries it
Right,
with
and
him
carries it away.
to ward off the evil.
And it's like, okay, well, there, and then they just cut away.
And then they cut away, so we're like, oh,
Okay.
really thought this character was gonna die.
Yeah, but I guess that scene's over.
I guess he's fine.
And then I think it's the priest, and then they do the
Cuts
radio thing where the radio turns on.
Oh
at night.
yeah. They're sitting at dinner and they have a bit of a conversation. And that's when we learn that Sister Irene has visions, and then they both go to bed.
Right.
Oh, and then we learn that the priest tried to exorcise a boy during the war in
Right.
in France, and it didn't take, and the boy died.
Which was a terrible detail because it did. That's also like all that does is introduce another horror character,
right. It's so
but
we,
it never goes anywhere.
well, yeah. Like as soon as he was telling us that story, I was like, oh, okay. The only reason we're hearing this is because he's going to see that little boy later.
Yeah. So next, all
Um,
right. So next is the priest.
Yeah. Next is a priest who is wakened in the middle of the night by the radio
Yeah.
popping back on, and he walks out.
Which of course has like upbeat music because it's again the easiest
It's
fucking.
the same song they were listening to at dinner.
Okay.
It's not even a different song.
Yeah. Because again they just go for the most common fucking horror tropes.
Yeah.
And then he like chases a woman through laundry.
No, the little boy.
Oh, that's a little boy.
He sees the little boy and starts following him through laundry.
through a terrifyingly elaborate like hung laundry that only exists
Which
to
is
be scary.
It's a gag they did in The Conjuring.
Yes, they did. Yeah. God, there's just not an original moment of this movie.
Well, and you can
really.
also trace them all back to James Wan movies.
Yeah.
Because the radio bit is an Insidious.
Right. Yeah, this really feels like this is watching this movie. It felt like, okay, I think we're done.
I think we're done with Conjuring movies.
Yeah, I think we're all set. They clearly
all
ran
set.
out of things
Yeah.
to do.
He wrote this one,
Ooh,
which is a bummer.
that's a real bummer. So then he gets the tap on the shoulder by the boy, and he turns around. The boy's really far away.
Right.
So the boy's,
Yeah. So he said to me, wow, he's got a real long arm.
yeah,
He's all the way down the hallway.
yeah. He's what's his face from Fantastic Four.
He's Mr. Fantastic.
He's Mr. Fantastic. And then he goes to the graveyard.
Runs in the graveyard. So
and
the
it's
priest
like, oh, neat.
follows him into the graveyard.
A spooky grave. It's like they built the spooky graveyard set, and they're
Right.
like, we really need to
we need
use
to get our
this.
money's worth out of
Yeah.
this spooky graveyard. So he runs in there. He gets spooked out. A real spook fest by the little boy.
by CGI snake coming out of his mouth.
Yeah. The profile shot was kind of cool.
Kind of, yeah. Again, it's so easy. It's
Yeah,
like a
it's very
snake
easy.
coming out of a mouth, and it's like,
This movie,
Yeah.
like, and when the ice zombie falls on Frenchie from the tree, they give it this snarl that is like such a low register guttural noise that you have an immediate visceral reaction
Yeah.
to it. But it's not. It's still. It's like, oh yeah, that was frightening. But it's like, so is just grabbing somebody and shaking.
yeah.
them.
So it's
like,
popping a balloon.
yeah,
behind
you
someone.
can't not have a reaction to it.
So I want to go back and say that they set up something that again was very telegraphed.
Oh yeah,
When they
the
first go
bells.
to the graveyard,
Yeah.
she sees the bells that are attached to strings.
Mhm.
And what a good movie would have done, a movie that's more subtle, is not explain it. Just have her look at them. So the audience could say, oh, you're right, those bells. Like, because everybody knows about those fucking bells.
I think it's not uncommon for people to
Okay.
know about that.
But then she asks about them, and they have to explain, like, yeah, people were afraid of being buried alive, so they attached bells.
Yeah, it's real sweet.
And it's immediately like, oh, those bells are going to ring. Like,
Yeah.
there's no question about it. And then they do it in a bad way. They did, like, I was expecting someone to go in the graveyard at night
And start
the
hearing the
bells to
tinkling,
start,
yeah.
ringing, and it wouldn't be great, but it would be. But instead, the priest gets magically buried alive,
He sure does, Dave.
and they use the bell just so she can see.
Which
know
grave
that,
he's in. Yeah,
but he gets like CGI buried alive.
he does. He sure does.
He gets scared backwards.
Falls into
into
an open grave
Yeah.
that slams shut, and then is just all of a sudden full of dirt and has like
Yeah.
grass growing on it.
So that's like wizard powers.
yeah,
like
a
that.
magician.
Yeah. And then I thought, okay, well, that's the end of the priest.
right? Because you don't get out of that.
Yeah. So the lady gets up.
So then the lady gets up.
I forget why she gets
Then
up.
Sister Irene wakes up. It cuts the priest inside the casket shouting, and then it cuts to her.
Okay.
I don't know.
And she doesn't go to the graveyard at first.
No, she goes the other way.
Yeah.
To
To a spooky cathedral
She goes
with
to the spooky-
Christ is beheaded.
beheaded Jesus on a crucifix. She goes to spooky chapel. Sees a big. The shadow bit was kind of cool.
kind of cool, and then it was so over the top.
It was very silly after a minute, but like there's this giant shadow of a nun rises up, and then it starts to shrink as it moves across the wall and gets shorter and shorter, and then and the camera's following
crosses
it,
a mirror,
and then it crosses a mirror, and we see in the mirror that an actual nun has walked behind her. It's like, oh, well, that's kind of clever.
Yeah.
But and she turns around, of course, nothing is there.
Yeah.
And then she turns back around, and the nun's like
holding her like they're posing for a photograph.
Yeah, the nun's like we had a great time in Belize photo for Instagram. Like it's even grinning. Like it's like
yeah, and it's got like a cartoonishly evil face, and there's like other nuns around.
Yeah,
and they were doing that weird camera trick where it was like shaky.
Yeah,
and it was so over the top.
Yeah,
it reminded me of Slender Man when they do that thing. Yeah, that it was just like, oh, CGI.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing.
And then the mirror explodes.
Yes, into CGI. And nothing about it. It's so fake that it's just
so over the top.
Yeah. And then my best part is that she just walks out.
Then she just walks out.
And she's just like, ooh. And then moves on.
That was really spectacular.
Yeah. Like she doesn't immediately just leave the movie.
Right. Like I would just run.
Right.
All the way back to town.
She's completely unfazed. They're often pretty unfazed by what they're seeing.
They never react in a way that an actual human being would react.
And then she goes into the graveyard.
Yeah. She goes into the graveyard. So each character has been lured independently to the spooky graveyard.
The ghost must just be like, these people are fucking idiots. This is so easy. And then she
make them do anything.
Then she digs up the priest. And there's like a bad scare while he's in the coffin where it grabs his head, and it doesn't matter. None of it matters.
No, none of it matters. The nun appears in the casket with them, which I kind of was expecting.
Yeah, it was again telegraphed where he kept looking around and he would hear noises,
and there were little scratching noises.
This whole movie, the most creative they think they're being is, I bet you thought it would be this jump scare, but instead it was this one, and it's like doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Because that one he's like looking at his feet, and then the nun grabs
his head,
and it's like, oh, it wasn't his feet,
yeah,
it was his head.
And you see it in the trailer when like,
oh, do you?
Not that one, but this idea of the jump scare where she's being followed by the nun in the catacomb, and she turns around, and then the jump scare comes from the left rather than what you're expecting.
If everybody's seen that trailer really sums up this movie.
Yep, that is
slow camera pan,
every scare in the film.
Yep.
So she digs him up.
And he gets out
and he looks down at the grave, and he was locked in an actual casket with an actual skeleton and shit, which they just never dwell on. And it's just a dude buried with these two giant never-ending storybooks.
And he's just like, I wonder if those books have the answer.
And of course they do.
They do. He's buried with exposition.
But like, why?
No,
like
never explained.
The demon put him in that grave.
Yeah.
Why would it put him in the grave with the books needed to defeat him?
Mm-hmm. It is
answer. It would not.
No, that was not the demon. That was the screenwriter. Yeah. That was James Wan. That was one of the most insane exposition moments I've ever seen in a movie.
To be fair, James Wan had the story credit. He doesn't have the screenplay credit.
Because they just didn't. There could have been a library. Like there could in the he could have just gone to the old library and found those books.
Yep.
But they clearly were like
in the Abbey.
Yeah, they were clearly like, look, we got to get this under 90 pages, and they're like, okay, instead of a library, just have the books in the grave that he gets out of.
Yeah,
it's literally him turns around after being buried alive, and is just like, oh, those books might be useful.
I bet those books are important.
Instead of leaving, never think to leave.
Yep.
So what? Okay, so he goes. This is when they go their separate ways for some reason, and they never come back together until the third act.
She goes and fucks off into the Abbey. I guess it's because he can't be there.
Sure.
Because they say that it's heavily cloistered and he's a man,
right.
So I think he just can't be in there.
Okay, yeah, that's fine. He goes to just some empty church.
He goes back to the same church where we saw Mother Superior earlier.
Right.
Which is a different. It's a chapel, but actually it's not a chapel. It's like a throne room.
Yeah,
there's a throne and two giant sarcophaguses.
Yeah, it reminded me of the Da Vinci Code. There's like those.
Yeah. And it's filled with red light.
Yes.
At all hours of the day.
No.
Even
source
at
of those
night,
lights.
there's red light pouring into that room. So he goes there to read,
and she goes back.
and she goes in to try to find some nuns to talk to. She finds one nun that will talk to her, and discovers that the nuns inside the abbey are on a rotating, constant prayer shift.
Right. And that her interviewing that nun is shot like a horror movie so unnecessarily.
Yeah.
Like there's a part where a nun opens the door because they close the door, and they do that by having the door slowly open behind her, and she turns around all scared, and that's just some nun, and
The nun's
that's
out
all
of
out of
focus.
focus.
Yeah, you never see
then
it.
the nun leaves. Like it's stuff like that where it's like, this is so cheap because that's just a moment of someone opening a door like, hey, can you keep this door open? And leaving.
And here,
Yes.
Sister Irene asks the nun, who I think is named Sister Ohana.
I don't know, you're better
something
with names.
like that. Asks her, "Do you know about the history of the abbey?" And here is where the film becomes a comedy.
Yeah. Well, the film's already gone off the rails. The graveyard scene.
The
But
graveyard scene was ridiculous.
All right. So you can explain this. I just want to know that it's explained so casually.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's like, okay, well, the nun was the abbey was built as a castle by this duke. And this duke used it to perform demonic rituals where he opened a gateway to bring this evil demon through. And it's like, well, there's your problem.
Yeah. It's literally like up until that point, they're just like, what's going on? How could this be? And she's like, well, maybe it was that satanic duke.
Yeah, well, you see, the castle that we're all living in right now was built by a satanic duke, and he built it all around this demon portal that he had in the basement that he successfully conjured a demon through.
So that's probably it.
It's probably that
It
demon.
literally cuts to like a flash of him hanging bodies upside down, just bleeding them into a portal.
Yeah.
And again, it's not like cut in a dramatic way. Like it's one of the few times they don't like play up horror.
Yeah,
They're just
it's
like
filmed very casually.
Yeah.
It looks like a music video.
It's
Like
so weird.
it's just, and then the Crusaders bust in and kill the Duke,
And
and then they splat.
oh yeah, and then they're like, and by the way,
Yeah,
they have the blood of Christ.
yeah, and she just casually says it. She's like, we had to seal the portal closed with the relic containing the blood of Jesus
She
Christ.
buries the lead. She doesn't say, also, we have the blood of Christ, so we use that. It's like, yeah, they went in, they used this. This relic has blood of Christ. Anyway.
Yeah. Blood of Jesus
Oh my God.
is in this castle.
Yeah, it's in play. The blood of Jesus gets around in this movie.
It sure does, man. There's a lot of it too.
Yes,
They
that's a good amount.
Haven't used much of it
No.
in 2,000 years.
Shit.
So that's how you seal the portal. But apparently, and there's like, and we built an abbey on top of it to make sure that evil never escaped, and it didn't for centuries until the war, and the abbey was hit with bombs, and the demon found another way to cross over,
Right.
and they never explain what that way was.
No.
They never explain how the demon got free.
Well, it seems to just be the portal. Because that's what they close at the end.
Right, but they never explain how the portal
How
opened
the
again.
portal, no.
Like
Bombs.
they say, so you can just bomb it open,
Yeah, I think so.
dude.
I think so.
You just blow that shit open with dynamite.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. We forgot the scene where Frenchie's at the bar.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't really matter that
It
much.
doesn't matter.
But it's established that Frenchie got out of there
Mhm.
and he's at the bar. And well, this is actually kind of insane because this is just straight out of Shaun of the Dead, where someone says to him like, "Oh, you went and brought those people to that spooky place. You know, tomorrow you're just going to be finding 2 more dead bodies."
Mhm.
And he looks worried and he looks across the bar and there's a gun
Mhm.
mounted like the Winchester in
There's a
Shaun of the
shotgun
Dead.
mounted on the board. Yeah.
And I just want to say, next time we see him, he's holding that gun that he apparently snatched from the bar or borrowed, I guess.
He might have told him, you know what, I got to go back and get those guys.
That felt like another, okay, we got to keep this under 90 pages.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how does he get the gun? It's in the bar.
It's just in the bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because not everybody has a gun
Yeah.
in Europe
Yeah.
in the 1950s.
Yeah, he could have just shown up with a gun.
Yeah, I would have accepted.
I would have
that,
accepted
that a farmer has a shotgun.
Also, spoilers, the gun is effective
Sure is.
against these
Sure
demons and ghosts. Who would have thought? You
Turns
really
out you can
need
just shoot him,
Yeah, blood of Christ or a gun.
or a gun, or a shotgun.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
All right.
So Sister Irene goes to bed in the Abbey, and
Are we going to get to the crossword puzzles now?
around there, because the priest is locked in the chapel. He loses track of time, and they lock him in.
He meets that old...
He talks to Mother Superior again, and we find out, surprise, she's been a ghost the whole time.
By her freezing still, and then her neck cracks.
Yeah.
Which is one of the 3 scares. And then he slowly tries to lift her veil, and she grabs him, and she's like a corpse or something.
Brittle old dusty skeleton arm.
And then he's like still studying or something, and then he sees her walk into the confessional.
Yeah.
And like a cat, follows
like
it
in there.
A laser pointer. He just looks at it, doesn't say a word. He's just like, huh, and like just follows.
Better go in there.
And he opens it, and she's not there. This is where I got confused, because they did something early, and then I knew again they was so obvious a setup. Is they're playing a crossword puzzle while getting to the castle.
They show us several times that he's using this crossword puzzle.
Right. And he says to the nun, like, oh, this many letters for, like, someone bringing something or something like that.
The postman's charge.
Yeah, and she says deliveries. And she gets it right. He's like, you're good at this. And I was like, well, that's a setup for something. Well, it is, but not for anything that makes sense.
Right, not for the way they direct it. Like, oh, you're good at this. No, she doesn't solve a single puzzle.
No. No, she's not a puzzle. No. But what happens, and I really, really need to know why this happened because I can't figure it out, is the priest is then, like, he's in the confession, nothing spooky happens.
He gets attacked by the little demon boy again.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And then he sees the crossword puzzle, and it says deliveries. And he's like, oh, yeah, deliveries. And then he just goes to the room where the deliveries come.
Right, but from the exterior door.
Right.
Like...
I guess my question is, did he literally like just see the word deliveries and was like, I'm going to go to deliveries? Like, there's no reason for him to go there.
Well, when we're in the ice house earlier, there's a door in the ice house with a label on it that says deliveries. And Frenchie's like, that's the door that the nuns use to go in and out of the ice house through the castle.
Right.
And so the way they set that up, he's like, oh, I can use that door to get out of the castle.
Right.
But they cut to him entering the ice house from the exterior door that we saw them come in before to get the nun, passing in front of the door that has deliveries on it. So he didn't actually use the door.
No. But even if he did,
into the castle,
why would he even use it to leave at that moment?
I don't know. I guess he didn't want to be trapped in the spooktacular spook house.
I guess that's what's so insane about it. It's like if it's like there's a horror movie and there was like a gazebo and someone just saw the word gazebo and was like, I should go to the gazebo, and just went to the gazebo. Like, that's his only motivation is seeing the word deliveries and then going, I should go to the room with deliveries there's no reason.
Well, they said because they replay the line when he's looking at the word deliveries. They replay the line that Frenchie says, where it's like, that's the door they used to get into the castle. So they're setting it up as he's like seeing that and being like, oh, that's an exit I can use that I forgot about.
Sure.
Because we see he's locked in behind this portcullis.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that there's no puzzle, there's no question he's posing. Like, he's just researching the demon. And so, and like you said, he doesn't go... Like, is he investigating that door? There's no reason.
I think that's just a continuity error. The fact that he doesn't actually use the door.
But then even if he does use the door, like I just like he's just sitting there researching a demon.
Yeah.
He has no motive. He doesn't have anything he's trying to solve. It's not like the usual suspects where he looks at the thing and he's like, like there's no revelation. He's just like, she said the word deliveries earlier. Therefore, I'm going to go to the delivery room. Why?
To escape.
Is he trying to escape because can't he just use the front door?
No, he can't. At least they
Oh, okay, so there is
he's
a
locked
problem.
in.
He's locked
in the castle.
There we go.
Remember he gets
This is what I was trying to solve in my head.
The gate goes down, so he's locked in.
So he's trying
to escape.
Okay.
But when they cut to the ice house, he enters from the exterior door.
I think that's probably why I was so thrown off.
Right.
Because I forgot that he was trapped in.
Yeah.
So from all I could tell is that he saw the name of a location and said, I'll go to that location.
Nope. No. Yeah. The movie sets it up as though he's using it to escape.
So it's that bad of a movie that he went in. Okay.
Yeah, they didn't even bother to pay attention. Because they make it seem like he can't even get to the other parts of the castle from where he's at.
All right, I'm really happy because I was legitimately, and it's just from, I think, probably me noticing where he enters. I was so confused about that plot.
It's very confusing.
So he follows a bell on a string.
He follows a bell on a string, and then the ice zombie appears again beneath like a frozen over well.
Right. I want to really stress that he looks down on the floor and there's a bell and it's tied to a string. This is something I have done with my cat, and it's just getting slowly pulled, and he just starts following it.
Oh, maybe he was okay. I might be maybe he was locked out of the main castle.
Okay,
like maybe
he's
the
trying to
throne
go
room.
in.
Maybe he's trying to get in to get to Sister Irene.
Sure, fair enough.
Right, because when he sees the Mother Superior ghost, she says to him, Sister Irene is already lost.
Okay.
So he's trying to get in. So he must be locked out.
Okay, that this all makes sense. They don't make it clear in the movie.
Right. The reason y'all just listen to us talk about this for 7 minutes is because this movie it does not make sense.
No, none of the characters
very confusing.
Yeah, it's very badly put together where you can't figure out where the characters are in relation to each other or what they're doing.
Mm-mm.
So he looks down at this bell, and I can just imagine the demon on the other end, like smiling and like, just giggling, slowly pulling it, which is something I do to a cat.
There's a scene.
He just follows the fucking bell on a string.
There's a scene where you hear the demon growl, and it sounds like it's chuckling. Like I was like, is it chuckling? Like it drags the bell to this frozen over well, and then the ice zombie from before bursts out, even though she's presumably still buried.
Yep. And then this is the second time well, no, not the second time. This is just one more moment the movie veers off the rails. Because it just keeps going off the rails.
This is the moment where I would have walked out of the film.
Okay.
Is because what happens next is a parody.
Yeah.
It's like the zombie's about to get him, and then its head just flies off. And we see Frenchie is there with his axe and his shotgun, and the priest says, "Frenchie!" Like exactly like that. Like he came so close to saying, "You son of a bitch."
And Frenchie almost said something like, "Miss me?" You know, like...
He basically does.
Yeah.
He says, "I thought you could use some help."
Yeah.
Like as he's literally clutching a shotgun. It's like, this is hilarious.
This is so far off the rails because the Conjuring 2 with the other time the nun's there, it's like prayer and like it's a spiritual, it's not a physical being, you know, it's a malicious presence that manifests as this physical thing. It's a demon. This is like if in The Exorcist someone walked in with a shotgun and a shovel and just shot her.
Right. It's
it's insanity. Where this is that moment the movie introduced the concept of like, yeah, you can just punch these things. It's like the Evil Dead.
Right.
Like it's Evil Dead level.
It's very Evil Dead.
It does, but without knowing that it's Evil Dead.
It's pretending that it's not.
Yeah, so that's when Frenchie becomes like Brendan Fraser hunting the mummy.
He is.
Yeah.
Very much Brendan Fraser. They get into the abbey. They find Sister Irene has almost got.
She's like praying with all the nuns.
Yeah, she almost got by the nun in like the abbey's basement behind that door that says God ends here, and then she escapes.
Yeah.
The other nun, Sister Ohana, or whatever her name was, showed up and says, "You got to get out of here." She basically says, "Get out of here and meet me in the chapel. I'll cover you."
I'll cover you. Yeah.
Basically, and it was insane at the time, but made sense immediately later because she gets to the chapel and sees this other nun is in there frantically praying, and there's a body under the sheet, and she pulls over the sheet, and it's Sister Ohana.
Yeah.
So like that nun is dead, so she encountered her spirit in the basement.
Ghost, yeah.
So she starts praying. All the other nuns show up, and they all start praying. They get force blasted back, and some of them get their necks broke.
They get force blasted,
and she's still praying, and like part of her habit gets torn off,
and then they
carving a pentagram into her back. Not even a pentagram, just the star.
Right. That was was insane.
And it's not even angled the correct way in my memory.
I don't know.
Because the
it was like an upside down star.
It was upside down.
It was upside down, I think. But it was just like a cool tat. Like
makes no sense.
Yeah. And then the priest gets in somehow.
Yeah, they bust their way in.
Yeah, I think she opens the door.
Oh yeah. He knocks on the door, and she like looks back at the other nuns, and is like, "Oh, the Father will help us." And she goes and opens the door, and she's like, "We've been in here praying. It's been working. Only constant adoration will work." And he's like, "Well, who's we?"
Right, and
they turn
there's
around,
no
and
nuns.
there's no nuns in there. And
There was never any nuns.
They pull back the sheet and see that it's still Sister Ohana, but her body's all old and desiccated.
Right.
So it's like the nuns have all been dead
Right.
for a long time.
And then she says something like, "I think we can go. Like, I think we're done here."
we solved it. It's no longer holy because there's no more nuns. The
if
nun
the
that killed
nuns-
herself in the beginning was the last nun.
Yeah, here's the thing: is the way the movie presented itself, I assumed that was the case, and it was this weird moment of like, oh, okay, and now they're going to this abandoned place, and when they found her body upright,
Mhm.
it was like, oh, that's spooky, and then like, no, there's nuns here. And it was like, oh, okay, there's nuns here. This is like, there's just nuns living in this really obviously haunted place.
Yeah.
And then they're like, no, guess again, they're ghosts, and it's like, okay, well
They're
that
ghost nuns.
I guess that makes sense.
But they're nuns.
But why
that-
would the nuns? Why wouldn't the nuns immediately be like, "Hey, leave"? Like, do they need the help? Like, they're not helping her out.
Don't know. Also, when she says, "Look, I've been here praying with him," they turn around. There's no nuns there. Like the Father says, "You have visions," but it's like
He saw 'em,
you
too.
saw the nuns too. You definitely saw Mother Superior.
Yeah.
So like her visions kind of don't matter.
Also, not only did she see the nuns, but they like, I assume they like cooked a meal, and like they got her stuff to sleep.
Yeah, they sit
They
down
got
and
her, like-
eat in like a parlor, and like
Yeah,
one of the nuns like leads her to a room.
Yeah, they're like hanging out.
Yeah, she's chilling with these ghosts.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep.
This fucking movie.
So then
and
they're
then
like, we gotta go.
Then the nun stands up. The dead nun.
Oh yeah, dead nun
just
stands
becomes
up.
possessed for some reason,
Yeah.
and they have to fight her. And again, I think he lights her on fire and then shoots her.
He douses a crucifix in holy water and presses it on her head, which causes her to burst into flame, and then Frenchie just shoots her.
Frenchie just shoots her. Frenchie is way more effective in this
Right.
moment.
Yeah. So they're like, okay, we have to go into the catacombs and seal the portal. Again, don't know why it's open.
Yeah.
Don't know why it's open.
First, we need the blood of Christ,
We need the blood of Jesus.
and they just find it.
They find it instantly.
Yeah, it just cuts to them in a room, and I don't remember why they decide
Well,
this is the room.
I don't know why, because Sister Irene says it's in the catacombs, but she's never seen the schematics.
Right.
The priest was looking at the schematics in those never-ending storybooks he found. But anyway, they're like, okay, we got to go down into the catacombs to find it. And literally the first room they walk into, we have Frenchie saying, well, the catacombs spread over the entire castle. It could literally be anywhere in the castle. But then the priest is looking at the statue of the Virgin Mary, where that's just in the room that they entered in.
Yeah.
And he's like, look, it's where Mary's pointing, and it's pointing at a little keyhole in the wall. Very Fifth Element.
Yes. And then she opens it, and it's just like a
It's
cabinet.
right there.
She opens it, and the door slide open, and it's like blood of Christ.
And blood of Christ on a little shelf.
Yeah.
It's just that's all that's in there.
It was all that's in there. There wasn't like toothpaste next
There
to
was
it.
like there was like another little thing there, but it was basically like a mini fridge.
Yeah.
Like it was very. They find the blood of Christ in 30 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, immediately.
Which in the beginning of the movie. This just made the beginning that much more confusing because they're like, we need the two nuns in the beginning are like, we need to get the relic. It's the only thing that'll help us. But they take the key into the room that says God ends here. That's not where the blood
Oh,
is.
that's the opposite of the
That's
room.
where the door is.
Yeah.
So
They just had the blood of
they
Christ
just had the
this whole time.
this whole just
Tom Hanks, he could have found it. He
Just-
could have found DNA evidence. He just had to go to this place and
should've
open
Tom
a door.
Hanks'd it, man.
Yeah. It would have been like I was half expecting like after they used the key, like they should have just like pressed it and it was magnetic and like just
Yeah,
opened.
it just
Yeah.
opened.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Then they split up.
Yeah, they go behind the God ends here door.
Yeah. And
And like it's time to find the I think so anyway, right?
yeah, pretty much.
It's time to find the portal. They all have very specific duties. Like
Right.
she's wearing the blood of Christ.
right,
Frenchie's got the torch,
right.
and the Father's got his cross. And I think that's it.
Yeah, and
Or
this
he
is
might
what-
have he has his cross and a lantern.
right. And this was the moment where I was like, they're all in 3 different movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
Like they're doing. He's in the Mummy. Frenchie's in
Frenchie's
the Mummy.
in the Mummy.
Yeah,
Like,
and the priest is like in a weird Exorcist movie, and then the nuns in like they
the nun's in like The Conjuring.
yeah, in The Conjuring, I guess.
She's in like because she's in like a psychological
Yeah,
supernatural horror movie. The father's in an exorcism horror movie.
Yeah.
And Frenchie's in the Mummy.
yeah, he's in the Mummy.
So they're walking down the hallway, and the father disappears into the first doorway they pass.
That was the thing. They didn't just split up. They did it without even agreeing to.
right.
They
and then,
like cats. They just all scattered.
yeah, he goes in the first door they pass. They walk a little bit further. Frenchie hears a noise and disappears down the hallway, leaving Sister Irene by herself with the blood of Jesus.
Yeah. Oh,
And so they all immediately start getting their asses kicked.
immediately.
Like the father gets attacked by the little boy again.
Who until this moment he hasn't done anything.
No,
All he is exposition. He's an exposition.
he does literally not. He will continue to do nothing for the rest of the movie.
Yeah.
Frenchie finds like a snarling voice behind a door that blows his torch out, so he just runs.
Right.
And then Sister Irene finds the portal room just instantly.
Yep.
It's filled with nuns with weird Silent Hill blood bags on their heads.
Yeah. This is like in
It's a slow
so
reveal that
many
she's
other horror
standing in a
movies.
pentagram.
Right.
So
And they're all standing there being creepy.
Yeah, they're just standing there being creepy. Then the door slams. She starts screaming. Frenchie and the priest both hear the screams. Priest gets attacked by a little boy
And a snake.
and a snake who spits a snake at him that bites him in the eye.
Yeah. He really doesn't take that much damage ultimately.
Bites him in the fucking
He
eye.
really just has like a red mark at the end.
But his eye's like dead.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's like milky and
All
shit.
right. Well, yeah, he's getting his ass
He's
kicked
getting his
by
ass
this little
beat.
boy.
Frenchie gets to the room and shoots the door open and does the bit in Silent Hill where she's walking through the nurses.
Right.
She does the same bit where he's walking through the nuns that have blood bags.
Yeah,
on
and
their
they like
heads.
sort of move.
And then they all move away. Music video for Thriller style. They all just move in unison.
Right.
And then he sees Irene floating in the pentagram circle, like
Right.
floating forward in a cruciform form. He pulls her blood sack off, and she's got nun face, evil nun face.
She throws him across the room.
Yeah. And then comes up and is like, oh, it takes his shotgun, and it's like, I'm going to blow you away, and then something.
She pins him and like chokes him, and then he wipes the blood of
Yeah,
Christ. on her,
he grabs
which
the
is
vial
apparently
that's around her
it's
neck.
extremely accessible to get the blood
Yeah.
out of that.
He just gets
Because
a
it's
little
like
bit
in a Christmas ornament with a cross filled with blood,
It's in
and
a
they
snow
just
globe.
have instant access. Like he just has the blood on.
Yeah,
his
he just got
hands,
some
and
blood
he
on
just
his
goes,
fingers.
"Nyeh," and like
Just
mushes
wipes it on her face. Demon spits out of her.
Yeah.
The nun appears, starts beating the hell out of Frenchie.
Yeah, she like chokes him out. Doesn't kill him.
Doesn't kill him, just chokes him out.
Has no desire to kill him. No motivation in general.
Right.
We have no idea what the nun
No
is
idea what this
trying to
demon
do.
wants.
Yeah.
We know in the beginning it's it needs a vessel. It's like, well,
Doesn't it?
it seems to have several.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It jumps from body to body.
knocks old Irene into the next room, which
Into
is
a water.
filled with water.
Yeah.
Just shitty water.
And that's
and starts drowning her.
fucking drowning her. That was the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah, it just starts drowning her. The reverend, the father gets up, tries to help.
Doesn't.
He gets force thrown because that's just the nun's move.
Yeah.
He gets knocked out.
Yeah.
He's done.
She's a Sith
he
Lord.
is face down on the
Yeah.
stone.
He doesn't even like when he has to save her at the end.
He doesn't do anything.
He doesn't.
He literally does nothing.
Had like Frenchie not been there, he would have just lied there while she drowned.
You could delete the father from this movie.
Yeah, you could. You could do a digital remaster.
He does not affect the plot in any way.
No. And just to give exposition that doesn't matter.
Right.
So this is another moment that I'm like, how did that get there? Because she drowns her, and we see her underwater drowning. And then the nun takes her out of the water and holds her up, and she goes.
Well, first he holds her up, and he's like, "Haha, I've got the blood of Jesus."
Oh yeah,
now.
and looks in,
wondering what it's gonna do.
Yeah,
with the blood of Jesus.
But she looks, and it's not in there.
It's been busted open. So she looks back at Irene, who just spits Jesus's blood all over her face.
There's a shot of a woman spitting Jesus blood directly at the camera, and then it's the funniest way to defeat anything in a movie.
Yeah,
she just spits in its face, and she makes this sound on it,
Yep.
and it's so so weird and unceremonious.
Yeah, and then it really starts.
And how did she get it in her mouth?
Don't know.
There was no
There's
point.
no way. There's
yeah.
no point because the nun's looking at her
Yeah.
the entire time.
Yeah, they cut to her. It's her like reaching for it, not quite getting the blood of Christ, and then the nun just grabs her and chokes her out.
Mm-hmm.
So she, I guess, grabbed the blood, but then she drowns her, and we see her
At
not
what point
moving.
does she get? There's no.
Yeah,
there's no moment
point.
where she could have gotten the blood into her mouth.
No.
Like there's just no point where
Yeah.
that would have happened. But it does. She spits the blood over the nun. Nun melts.
Yeah.
The portal, which was at the bottom of this pool, reveal.
Yeah.
Just all the water gets sucked into the portal.
Conveniently, just in the room she threw her in.
Yeah. So hell's getting a whole lot of gallons of water dumped
Yeah.
in it right now. It's probably going to bum several people out down
Yeah.
there. Or maybe they'll be really into it. I don't know. Maybe they'll be like, oh, finally, water.
Yeah, some rain. What if
So the portal gets closed.
she's got blood
Frenchie
and Jesus blood
gives
all
her mouth to mouth and brings her
Right.
back to life. And we find that his name is Maurice, which I guess is supposed to be a reveal if you remembered back to the first Conjuring,
but nobody does.
but nobody did. Even though I've saw that movie and enjoyed it, I've
Right.
seen it more than once. I just did. This is such an ancillary character.
Yes,
The reveal is that Frenchie's a character in the first movie,
but not a character that matters.
but not really.
And it's one of the most awkward endings to a movie I've seen in a
Yes.
while.
So he brings her back to life. She's like, "What's your real name?" He's like, "Maurice," and he's like, "Thank you for saving my life, Maurice." And so as they're, they
And
they
then
just
the
kinda
priest gets-
then the priest gets up. He's like, "Man, boy, that was pretty crazy, huh?" And they pan slowly out, and I'm just imagining like one of them has to be like, "So what did Jesus's blood taste like? Was it?"
It's like normal blood.
Was-
It's just
was it
old blood.
delicious?
Yeah. You know, she's probably swallowed some of that blood
Oh
too.
hell yeah, she did. So
this movie has someone spitting Jesus'
Spitting
blood in the face of a
Jesus's-
nun demon.
like a lot of it.
yeah,
A lot of
that
Jesus
that
blood.
all right. That moment should be in a comedic horror film. And that's the thing is, while we're describing this, people are probably listening, being like, "That sounds fucking fun." It's not. This whole thing is treated.
Doesn't that happen in Demon Knight? Isn't that how she beats Billy Zane?
I think so.
Yeah.
That is exactly how she beats Billy Zane.
Yep.
Instead of Jesus, wow. And all right, so I can't stress this enough. It's not funny.
Yeah.
Like the movie is trying to be scary and serious.
Yeah.
And all of the things we're describing are things that would happen in a movie like Demon Knight. It's
Yes.
it's insane.
And in my memory, Demon Knight is supposed to be kind of funny.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. It's a little scary. I watched it recently.
Yeah.
It's over the top.
Yeah.
This is like
It's
Evil
a Tales
Dead.
from the Crypt movie.
Yeah, this is like Evil Dead level shit. Done trying to scare us. Like if I were producing this movie and saw a cut,
Yeah.
I would be like, oh, up the saturation, add more jokes.
Yeah,
Like we
gotta make
need
this
to
a
save
comedy.
this movie. Yeah,
We got to make this funny.
yeah,
Because this is not scary.
yeah. It's not scary and it's not funny.
So they pan out. We see that Irene's buried all the nuns. She says
Right.
a prayer over them. It's all bright and lit up. The horse is there.
Yep.
Frenchie's horse is there, so we know that. Then he's just like, I thought the ground wasn't holy anymore, and he's like, well, now it is now, and we know because
horse says
the
so.
horse is there, and she's buried. Everybody, and they get in the cart and they start to ride away, and Frenchie rubs the back of his neck, and then we see he's got an upside down cross growing on the back of his neck.
That's some great writing. That was them like. So how can we tell that Frenchie is evil? And just put an upside down cross on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like just when you're possessed and an upside down cross shows up on your skin.
Now here's my question.
Okay.
We see them. They ride the carriage back to town, and then the movie effectively ends.
Yeah, I know what your question is, but
My
I think I know.
question: how come the horse doesn't know he's evil?
Exactly. How come everybody is like, oh, everything's okay? And again, just to stress how comically obvious everything is, like you said, the sky's cleared up.
Yeah.
Like the weather knows it's not scary anymore.
And this is Romania.
Yeah.
In the mountains.
But again, he is possessed. He has a demon in him.
Yeah.
Which they show it's via snake.
Yeah, they flash back to when he was getting choked out by the nun. She actually spat a snake into his mouth.
Yeah.
And I very cleverly said it was an STD, a snake-transmitted demon.
That's great. It's solid.
Write that down.
So yeah,
And then it cuts to
And then, all right, this is how it gets so awkward. And then it
Yeah.
cuts to a scene from the first Conjuring.
Yeah.
Where it's what's her name and
where
what's his face.
it's when Lily Taylor,
I'm trying to remember the two psychics, what they're
the Warren, Ed and Lorraine Warren.
The Warrens are giving a slideshow, which is it's a scene from The Conjuring that's not a big and important scene.
Right. It's when the mom from The Conjuring goes to meet them to be like, I need you guys to come to my house.
And in the introductory scene where they do that, it's them showing like, look, they're into psychic stuff. So it's them being like, look at this exorcism footage, and it's them talking about it.
Mhm.
And that's not a big deal in the original film. And it's just like, oh, yeah, and then it cuts to the scene when she's talking to him. And they show that scene again, and they're like, look, it was him.
It's Frenchie that they're talking about. He was the possessed person.
Right. And that was so fucking awkward and weird.
Well, because it gets more awkward because they zoom in because he's in the middle of an exorcism, and like they zoom in on the nun that's next to him, and it appears to be Sister Irene,
Right.
but it's unclear. And then like she screams in reaction to him like thrashing, and then the movie ends.
Yep.
So the movie ends with us not having any idea what happened to the three main characters of this film.
Right. Well, what it seems to end with is the idea of just like, yeah, they had a hard time there with Frenchie, huh? Anyway, movies end. Like, that's what it is. It's like it felt like it wasn't enough that they, like, I would have accepted the stupid upside
And then
down
them
cross.
riding off.
And
yeah.
then it riding off. And I would have assumed, oh, he got possessed in that the scariness continues. But they showed that scene because they thought it was clever to like be like,
To tie
and
it.
see, it's tied in, and it's not really.
Yeah.
Because it's like, no, they were just watching that. Like
Yeah.
they weren't involved in it.
And so like by adding that extra tag on the end,
Yeah.
it's like, so did they exorcise Frenchie? Like,
Right.
did he live? Did he die? Did they live? Like,
It didn't matter. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. You can't end your movie and have us not know what happened to the main
Right.
characters.
Right. And it's so dumb. Because it really, again, it felt like there were some producers like, you got to tie it in. You got to tie it in with the rest. And it was the equivalent of like, okay, well, what if there's a picture of them in the background of this scene from the
That's
original?
basically it.
Yeah. And it raises more questions to ask. It makes it unconclusive.
Yeah,
suddenly.
adding it in made it again. Like I
And
said,
then
you
it
could have
just-
edited it with them riding down the road, and we're like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
there's a demon hiding in Frenchie, so that explains how the nun is still around in The Conjuring 2. Nope, they added another scene that makes it incredibly confusing.
Yeah. And that's what's because all they needed to explain is, oh, the nun is still around.
Right. Yeah.
And I thought they were going to end with something where like our main character, she becomes the nun or something, and that's how they like the demon continues.
Mhm.
But they did it with Frenchie, and that was fine. But instead of ending conclusively, it ended in a way that made everybody in the audience go like, "But what? Huh?
So what happened?
What? Oh, the credits. Oh, the credits. Okay,
Well, fuck you.
what was that?
yeah.
Like it's so."
yeah.
It's uncinematic too.
It's
like
one-
it's
yeah,
weird and awkward.
It's jarring. It's awkward. It's confusing.
Yeah.
It's unsatisfying. It's
should-
one of the worst endings to a film I've ever seen.
Yes, it really is. We should note that we witnessed multiple people walking out of this movie.
Several people walked out of this film.
And we would have too.
Had we not needed to do this podcast
Yeah.
for you fine people, we would have left this movie.
Yeah.
I would have walked out when I think I said it in the podcast. The moment I would have walked out of the film was when he goes like, Frenchie,
Yeah, that would have done
you
it.
son of a bitch.
But everybody had their own little moments that
everybody had
they
their
would
own-
have walked out.
Right, yeah.
I always think to walk out sooner because I know if you walk out from working in a theater, if you walk out before the halfway mark, they have to give you your money back.
Yeah.
At least that's how it used to be.
Yeah.
So I always like figure out like, okay, this is where you have to leave.
Yeah.
It's now or never.
Fucking pull that ripcord.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a very bad and stupid film.
Yeah, I'm glad it wasn't just middle of the road mediocre. Like the James Wan stuff is pretty decent, but a lot it's getting to that point. Like Conjuring 2 was like, oh, that's a cool shot. Oh, that's a cool moment. But more or less, it's a forgettable movie.
Mhm.
And I was scared this was going to be that because we wouldn't have anything to talk about. I am thankful that this movie was so bad.
Yeah.
That it's making this podcast fun, I guess.
I hope it was fun for you
Yeah,
guys.
I hope it was
'cause
fun.
We exhaustively
Yeah, that-
explained the plot of this film.
Yeah, that said, I can't stress enough how you shouldn't see it.
Do not go see this in the theater.
I don't think you're gonna have fun. We were like a little tired, and it helped, and like we were forced to watch it, so we
Yeah.
had to make our own fun by really thinking about how dumb this was.
If you're gonna watch it, wait till it comes out on streaming and watch it with a bunch of friends.
Yeah.
Like you do not need the theater experience
No,
for
you
this
do
film.
not.
Like,
I don't want this to get supported. I don't want this sort of filmmaking.
we
to be
should not
encouraged.
reward this.
Yeah.
This type of filmmaking. It's very dumb.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. So that's The Nun.
The Nun.
Such a fucking nun.
Such a nun.
Such
And there was
a goddamn nun.
there were many times where it was like, is that the nun?
Oh,
no.
I guess she was the nun.
That's just a nun. There's
Yeah.
many a nuns in
Yeah,
this.
there are many nuns.
There's only one the
There's
nun.
only
and
one the nun.
I'm not even entirely sure who is the nun. I guess it's
It's the demon.
yeah, but that's not a demon. That's a demon. That's not the nun. Who?
I don't know, man. Let's leave it.
Okay.
Some mysteries are never meant to be solved.
That's true.
And then others are the word deliveries in a crossword puzzle.